Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will learn about the shocking issue that will shake Port Charles to its core: Anna's kidnapping, Morgan's stunning return from the dead, and the looming war with the dangerous Sidwell organization. This storyline not only rewrites history, but also opens the door to emotional reunions, intense confrontations, and a new wave of danger that will test every character involved. In this article, we will follow the events as they unfold, focusing on the main developments and how they connect, while maintaining a continuous, detailed narrative that dives deeply into each step of this dramatic arc. Anna's disappearance is the spark that ignites this entire storyline. For some time, people in Port Charles have sensed that something is wrong. Anna Devane, usually so controlled and capable, suddenly goes off the radar. Calls go unanswered, schedules are missed, and those who know her best begin to worry. At first, it is easy for others to assume that Anna is on a mission, perhaps gathering intelligence or tracking down a threat she has not yet shared with anyone. However, as the hours turn into days, it becomes undeniable that something far more sinister is happening. Anna has not simply chosen to disappear. She has been taken. The tension begins to rise among those closest to her as they realize that Anna would never voluntarily go silent for this long without a good reason, especially with so much already happening in Port Charles. The truth, however, is far darker than anyone in town can imagine. Anna has been kidnapped and brought to a secret laboratory controlled by Sidwell, a name that will soon become synonymous with danger for everyone at General Hospital. In this hidden facility, walls of cold metal and sterile white lights mask the cruelty that occurs inside. Anna wakes up in a secured cell, disoriented and restrained, realizing she is being held against her will in a place that feels more like a scientific prison than anything else. She quickly assesses her surroundings, noting the heavy door, the surveillance equipment, and the eerie silence punctuated only by distant mechanical sounds and muffled voices. This is not a simple kidnapping. This is a calculated, organized operation, and Sidwell clearly has a bigger plan that involves Anna as one of the key pieces. As Anna tries to mentally map her situation, she begins to understand that this laboratory is not just a place to keep her hidden. The environment suggests experimentation, research, and long-term confinement. There are locked rooms, equipment that looks medical but also experimental, and a sense that she is not the first person to be brought here. The thought is chilling, and Anna's instincts tell her that whatever Sidwell is doing, it has been going on for a long time. She can feel that she is in the hands of someone who has the resources, the manpower, and the ruthlessness to hold her indefinitely. Anna, however, is not someone who easily gives in. Even in captivity, she begins thinking about escape, about weaknesses in the security, and about finding any possible ally within this nightmare. What Anna does not yet know is that she is not the only prisoner inside this secret facility. The revelation that changes everything comes when it is revealed that another cell in this laboratory contains someone thought to be dead for years: Morgan Corinthos. In Port Charles, Morgan's death left a hole that never truly healed. His supposed demise devastated Sonny, Carly, and many others, and the fallout from that tragedy shaped countless decisions and relationships. But in this hidden lab, the truth is exposed. Morgan did not die in the way everyone believed. Instead, he was captured and has been held in this clandestine prison for many years. Sidwell, for reasons that will soon become a critical mystery, chose to keep Morgan alive, confined, and desperate within these walls. For Morgan, these years have been a relentless cycle of hope and despair. On multiple occasions, he has tried to escape. Each attempt has been fueled by the memory of his family, the desire to return to Port Charles, and the refusal to accept that this cold cell is his final destination. Morgan has studied the guards, tested the strength of his cell door, and tried to exploit small gaps in security. But every time, he has been caught, punished, and thrown back into confinement. The psychological toll of repeated failure has been immense, Yet Morgan's spirit has not been completely broken. The thought of Sonny, of his loved ones, and of the life that was stolen from him continues to push him forward. Deep down, he believes there has to be a way out. He just has to find it and survive long enough to make it happen. Everything changes the day Morgan becomes aware that he is no longer alone in this dark place. He discovers that another prisoner has been brought in, and when he realizes that it is Anna Devane, the shock nearly overwhelms him. Anna is not just any captive. She is a figure from his past, a respected force in Port Charles, and someone deeply connected to many of the people Morgan himself loves. The moment Morgan recognizes Anna, a bridge instantly forms between his years of isolation and the world he left behind. Seeing Anna confirms for him that Port Charles is still out there, that time has passed, and that the people he cares about are still fighting their own battles. It also tells him something else. If Sidwell has now targeted Anna, the threat is spreading, and the danger could soon circle back to his family. For Anna, realizing that Morgan is alive is equally staggering. As she looks at him, she sees the years that captivity has carved into his expression, but she also sees the same familiar eyes, the same fire that has always defined him. The idea that Morgan has been alive, suffering all this time while everyone believed him dead, is almost unbearable. Instantly, her mind begins racing through the implications. Sonny, Carly, Michael, and so many others have been mourning Morgan, building their lives on the assumption that he was gone forever. Now, Anna is faced with the reality that this man has been hidden away, silenced by Sidwell's twisted agenda. The enormity of the secret is painful, but it also becomes a powerful source of motivation. Anna knows that if there is any chance of escape, she cannot leave Morgan behind. The mission becomes about both of them getting out and exposing the truth. The reunion of Anna and Morgan inside this secret lab becomes the turning point of the entire storyline. From that moment forward, survival is no longer a solitary struggle. They share information, piece together what they know about Sidwell, and quickly realize that their only hope is to work together. Morgan can offer insight into the routines of the guards, the timing of patrols, and the layout of the facility that he has memorized over the years. Anna, with her strategic mind and training, can analyze weaknesses and craft a plan that is not simply driven by desperation, but by calculated moves. With each whispered conversation, with every exchanged look of determination, their partnership solidifies. Both understand that this is likely their last chance. If they fail now, Sidwell will tighten security further, and the window of opportunity may never open again. Their escape plan is born out of equal parts courage and necessity. Morgan has already tried brute force and impulsive attempts in the past, and they have always ended with him being captured. This time, with Anna's influence, the approach becomes more deliberate. They decide to watch for patterns, to wait for a moment when the guards are distracted or when a shift change creates a brief period of vulnerability. The atmosphere in the lab becomes charged with tension as they silently count the minutes, track footsteps, and note the smallest deviations in routine. Anna studies the locking mechanisms and tools that might be within reach. Morgan, remembering every painful failure, pushes away his fear of another defeat and instead focuses on the possibility that this time, with Anna by his side, things might be different. Finally, the opportunity they have been waiting for arrives. A slight disturbance elsewhere in the facility draws some of the guards away from their usual positions. The resulting gap in security is small, but it is enough. Morgan, fueled by adrenaline and years of pent-up resolve, makes his move. He channels every ounce of strength into breaking through the constraints of his confinement. This is not a random attack. It is targeted and timed. The moment his cell opens, his first thought is not his own freedom, but Anna's. He rushes to her, using everything he has learned about the facility's structure to get to her door. The sight of Morgan forcing the door open, determined to free Anna as well, is a powerful symbol of his transformation from prisoner to rescuer. Together, they cross that critical threshold from captivity into the dangerous, uncertain pathway of escape. Once Anna is out of her cell, the real battle begins. Alarms may sound at any second, and the labyrinth of hallways and locked sections becomes both an obstacle and an opportunity. They move quickly, making choices at each intersection based on Morgan's knowledge and Anna's instincts. Every turn carries risk. Every shadow could conceal a guard, and yet they press forward. The urgency of the moment is intense. One wrong step could lead to recapture, and the consequences would be brutal. They know Sidwell will not tolerate another escape attempt. At the same time, the possibility of freedom, of reuniting with their loved ones, of bringing the truth back to Port Charles, pushes them onward. Each step becomes a declaration that they refuse to let Sidwell define their fate any longer. Confrontations with the guards become inevitable. As Morgan and Anna make their way through the facility, they encounter heavily armed men tasked with maintaining Sidwell's control. In these moments, Anna's training and experience come into play. She uses quick thinking, surprise, and the environment to their advantage. Morgan, hardened by years of survival in this hostile space, fights with a fierce determination born from years of suffering and loss. The two of them become a formidable team, using both strategy and instinct to evade and overcome the opposition. They do not have endless ammunition or perfect conditions, but they have something Sidwell's guards lack: an unbreakable motivation to get out and expose the truth. The escape from the facility is not clean or easy, but it is successful. At last, Morgan and Anna find a way out of the maze of corridors and emerge into the outside world, leaving behind the nightmare that nearly consumed their lives. The air feels different, the sky looks wider, and every step away from that hidden prison feels like a miracle. Yet, even as they breathe freely, both understand that their journey is far from over. The world believes Morgan is dead. The world has no idea where Anna has been taken. Sidwell still exists, with resources and influence that can reach far beyond the walls of any single laboratory. Freedom, in this moment, is just the beginning of a larger war. Their return to Port Charles becomes one of the most emotional moments of this entire storyline. When Morgan and Anna make their way back, they bring with them not only their own battered bodies and spirits, but also the explosive truth of what Sidwell has done. For Sonny, in particular, the impact is indescribable. Sonny Corinthos has lived for years with the guilt and grief of losing his son. He has replayed the circumstances of Morgan's supposed death countless times, blaming himself, questioning his choices, and carrying that pain quietly even as he continues to run his organization and protect his family. To suddenly be faced with the reality that Morgan is alive, standing before him after years of being held captive, is almost too much to process. The moment of reunion between Sonny and Morgan is charged with overwhelming emotion. Sonny, who has built his life around protecting those he loves, is hit by the sight of his son, who has endured years of unimaginable hardship. Morgan, in turn, sees his father not as the man he last remembered, but as someone who has aged under the weight of grief and responsibility. The mixture of relief, joy, sorrow, and anger is intense. Words may fail them at first, replaced by raw expressions of disbelief and gratitude. Sonny is deeply, profoundly glad that his son is alive, even as he grapples with the rage at the people who stole those years from them. That anger quickly finds a clear target: Sidwell. As Anna and Morgan recount everything that happened inside the lab, the magnitude of Sidwell's crimes becomes undeniable. They describe the conditions of the prison, the guards, the experiments, and the calculated cruelty of keeping Morgan alive but hidden. The story is harrowing, and each detail fuels Sonny's fury. This was not an accident or a tragedy beyond human control. This was a deliberate act by a man and an organization that saw people as tools, as pawns, and as test subjects. For Sonny, a line has been crossed that cannot be ignored. It is no longer simply about revenge. It is about justice, about making sure Sidwell can never again inflict this kind of suffering on anyone else. Sonny's protective instincts ignite into a decisive resolve to act. Sonny's next steps are swift and focused. He understands that this is not a threat he can face alone. Sidwell's reach is extensive, his resources are substantial, and his methods are secretive. To go up against this kind of enemy requires coordination, strategy, and trusted allies. That is why Sonny quickly turns to Jason, the one person he can always rely on when the stakes are life and death. Jason has long been Sonny's right hand, his enforcer, and his confidant. With Sidwell now firmly in Sonny's sights, Jason's role becomes more critical than ever. Sonny gathers Jason and his most loyal subordinates, making it clear that they are on the verge of a major confrontation. This will not be a small skirmish or a simple retaliation. This will be a full-scale showdown. The planning that follows is intense and methodical. Sonny, Jason, and the team pore over every piece of information Anna and Morgan can provide. They analyze the layout of the lab, the security measures, the identities of key operatives, and any hint of Sidwell's broader operation. Their goal is not just to strike back blindly, but to dismantle Sidwell's power from the inside out. They consider how many other facilities might exist, what kind of experiments may have been conducted, and whether there are more victims still locked away, waiting for someone to rescue them. Every new detail deepens their determination. Sidwell is not a threat that can be left partially intact. Sonny knows that if they do not take him down completely, the danger will linger. At the same time, the emotional fallout from Morgan's return continues to ripple through Port Charles. For Sonny, the joy of having his son back is interwoven with the guilt that he was not able to protect him in the first place. For Morgan, adjusting to life outside the lab is a challenge, as years have passed and relationships have evolved in his absence. Anna, too, must process her own trauma while stepping back into her role as a leader and protector. Yet, despite all the personal struggles, there is a shared understanding that Sidwell must be stopped. Their pain becomes part of the fuel that drives Sonny's upcoming campaign against this enemy. As Sonny rallies Jason and his loyal subordinates, a sense of anticipation builds. They prepare for a confrontation that will likely involve violence, risk, and sacrifice. Jason, always calm and focused, begins mapping out tactical options, safe houses, and avenues of attack. Sonny makes it clear that this operation is about more than settling old scores. This is about ensuring that no other family has to endure what his family endured. Morgan's survival is a miracle, but it also exposes the reality that others may not have been as fortunate. The idea that there could be more victims out there, still imprisoned by Sidwell, adds an urgent moral imperative to their mission. The looming confrontation with Sidwell promises to be one of the most intense and consequential battles in recent General Hospital history. On one side, there is a powerful organization willing to commit extreme acts in pursuit of its goals, hiding behind laboratories, guards, and hidden agendas. On the other, there is Sonny, galvanized by the return of his son, backed by Jason, and guided by information from Anna and Morgan. The stakes are high, and the outcome will shape the future of Port Charles. The line has been drawn clearly. Sidwell must be confronted, exposed, and neutralized. In the end, this storyline stands out not only because it brings Morgan back from the dead and places Anna in deadly danger, but because it ties together past pain, present courage, and future conflict into one continuous, gripping narrative. Anna's kidnapping leads to the shocking discovery that Morgan is alive. Morgan's years of captivity transform him into a survivor ready to fight back. Their daring escape reunites them with Sonny and pulls back the curtain on Sidwell's atrocities. Sonny's joy at seeing his son again quickly evolves into a fierce determination to wage war against the man who stole those years. With Jason at his side and his people ready for battle, Sonny is prepared to launch a direct confrontation with Sidwell, setting the stage for explosive showdowns, high emotion, and lasting consequences across Port Charles. This arc promises not just action, but deep emotional payoffs. A father reunited with his son, A hero returning from the shadows, a legendary agent surviving against the odds, and an entire community facing the reality that one of their darkest tragedies was not what it seemed. From the moment Anna opens her eyes in that cold laboratory cell to the moment Sonny gathers his inner circle for the coming war, every beat of this story moves with purpose toward the inevitable clash with Sidwell. And as this conflict unfolds, viewers can expect revelations, confrontations, and decisions that will echo through ABC's General Hospital for a long time to come.